The new iPhone 16 is here, and like every other release, it promises cutting-edge technology, sleek design, and features that are hard to resist. But beneath the surface of this highly anticipated device lies a hidden cost that most consumers are unaware of, one that doesn't show up in the price tag, but is felt halfway around the world. So, before you make that purchase, let's uncover the dark side of the tech you might be holding in your hand soon. The Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, is home to an estimated $24 trillion in untapped mineral resources, including some of the largest deposits of coltan and cobalt in the world. These minerals are crucial for making smartphones, electric vehicles, and other modern technology. But their extraction often fuels conflict and human rights abuses. Coltan, used in capacitors for smartphones, and cobalt, vital for batteries, have become the focus of armed groups looking to profit from illegal mining. The DRC produces 60% of the world's cobalt, and around 70% of coltan comes from this war-torn region. In the eastern part of the DRC, more than 120 armed groups, including the infamous M23 rebels, are involved in violent conflicts over control of these mineral-rich areas. These groups profit immensely from illegal mining activities, using the revenue to fund their operations, which have led to widespread violence, displacement, and human rights abuses. According to the United Nations, this conflict has displaced over 5 million people, making it one of the largest and most prolonged humanitarian crises in the world. The situation has been exacerbated by the involvement of neighboring countries like Rwanda and Uganda, which have been repeatedly implicated in supporting rebel groups operating in the DRC. Rwanda and Uganda have been accused by the United Nations of playing a significant role in the conflict. According to UN reports, these countries have backed rebel groups for years, providing them with arms and logistical support in exchange for access to the DRC's valuable mineral resources. This support has allowed rebel groups to consolidate their control over mining areas, enabling them to smuggle minerals across the border. Once these minerals reach Rwanda and Uganda, they are integrated into the global supply chain and become nearly impossible to trace. Reports suggest that up to 90% of the minerals sourced from conflict zones in the DRC enter the global market through this process, where they are used in the manufacturing of various high-tech products, including smartphones like the iPhone 16. The illegal mining of these minerals generates around $600 million annually, a major portion of which funds ongoing violence and instability in the region. This has created a vicious cycle in which violence and exploitation are perpetuated to maintain control over the region's resources. The United Nations has issued several resolutions and warnings to Rwanda and Uganda to stop their involvement in the illegal mineral trade, but little has changed on the ground. Another alarming aspect of the conflict is the use of child labor in the mining industry. Thousands of children, some as young as 7 years old, work in dangerous and inhumane conditions to extract the minerals used in products like the iPhone 16. These children are often forced to work long hours in hazardous environments without proper safety equipment. Exposure to toxic materials, such as heavy metals, is common, and many of these children suffer from chronic health issues as a result. The exploitation of child labor in the DRC's mining industry is a direct violation of international human rights laws, but it continues largely unchecked. Amidst the chaos, the Congolese government is missing out on billions of dollars in potential revenue. Due to the illegal mining operations controlled by rebel groups, the DRC is unable to collect taxes and royalties from much of its mining sector. Experts estimate that if the country's mineral resources were properly managed, the government could generate significantly more income, which could be used to improve infrastructure, healthcare, and education in one of the poorest countries in the world. However, because much of the DRC's wealth is being siphoned off by rebel groups and smuggled into neighboring countries, the government is left with little control over its own resources. In response, the DRC has taken legal steps to address the issue, partnering with international legal firms to reclaim some of the lost revenue. The government has filed several lawsuits in international courts, seeking compensation for the exploitation of its resources and damages for the harm caused by illegal mining activities. A report from Amsterdam and Partners, representing the DRC government, details these allegations, claiming that Apple has utilized illegal supply chains that profit from the suffering of Congolese people affected by violent mining practices and human rights violations directly orchestrated by the diverse rebel movements. In response to this accusation, Apple has denied any wrongdoing, citing in its 2023 Apple Conflict Minerals report, which states that due diligence efforts found no evidence of direct or indirect financing of armed groups in the DRC or adjacent countries. Also, Apple has said it does not source minerals from the mines where these gruesome crimes take place, though it has experienced some challenges in tracking its mineral supply chains. Protests against Apple over its use of conflict minerals from the Democratic Republic of Congo have taken place in multiple cities worldwide, particularly during the iPhone 16 launch. Congolese activists, along with groups like Stand for Congo and Apples Against Apartheid, gathered at Apple stores in cities like London, Berlin, and New York to protest Apple's alleged complicity in sourcing minerals such as coltan and cobalt from conflict zones in the DRC. The protests called on Apple to ensure that its supply chain is free from blood minerals and to take more responsibility for the conditions in which these resources are extracted. Alongside these protests, Apple has also faced increasing scrutiny over its involvement in other humanitarian crises. For instance, pro-Palestinian activists have protested at Apple stores, accusing the company of indirectly supporting Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories due to its business investments in Israel. Demonstrators have argued that Apple's profits and operations in Israel contribute to military actions in the West Bank and Gaza, where thousands of Palestinians have been displaced, and countless lives have been lost in the conflict. The issue of human rights violations in Palestine isn't the only geopolitical controversy surrounding Apple. The company has also faced criticism for its involvement in China, where it has been linked to forced labor camps involving Uyghur Muslims. Reports from human rights organizations have suggested that some of Apple's suppliers may have used forced labor from Uyghur detainees in Xinjiang. These detainees are reportedly forced to work in factories that produce components for Apple's products, raising ethical concerns about the true cost of the devices we use. Amidst these controversies, there are companies trying to do better. Fairphone takes a radically different approach from Apple by ensuring that the materials used in its phones are sourced from conflict-free zones. For example, the company works with mines in the Democratic Republic of Congo that are certified to meet strict labor and environmental standards. Fairphone also prioritizes workers' rights and pays higher wages to those in its supply chain, ensuring that labor exploitation is minimized. One of the standout features of Fairphone is its modular design, which allows users to easily replace components like the battery, screen, or camera instead of buying a new device when something breaks. This approach not only extends the lifespan of the device, but also reduces the amount of e-waste generated. E-waste is a growing global problem, with millions of tons of electronic devices being discarded each year, many of which end up in landfills or are improperly recycled. Fairphone's commitment to sustainability extends to its packaging, which is made from recycled materials, and its manufacturing process, which is designed to minimize energy consumption. Fairphone may not offer the same level of performance or sleek design as the iPhone 16, but for those who prioritize ethics over aesthetics, it presents a compelling alternative. While Fairphone's market share is small compared to tech giants like Apple, the growing awareness of ethical consumption could push more consumers to consider alternatives that align with their values. Supporting companies like Fairphone sends a message to larger corporations that consumers care about more than just the latest features. They care about the impact their purchases have on the world. As you can see, the new iPhone 16 represents far more than just the next step in smartphone technology. Beneath its sleek exterior lies a complex network of exploitation, conflict, and environmental destruction. The minerals used to create this device fuel wars and displace millions, while companies like Apple continue to profit from the suffering of others. But as consumers, we have the power to make better choices. By opting for ethically sourced products like Fairphone, we can begin to dismantle the systems that perpetuate these injustices and send a clear message to tech giants that human rights and environmental sustainability matter. So before you hit that buy button on the iPhone 16, ask yourself, what's the true cost?